Live, back in action, attacking your speakers from the field to the beaches. This is the Power 32 podcast, the Power Hours in the house. Today, it is all about the NFL draft. 2 weeks away from today, we will be doing it live as the draft is going on, but we have our mock drafts today. Yes, each of us are going to be doing 1 through 32. Want to hear what you guys got to say as we go along. It's going to be a lot of fun as we say hello to the GM. Kenny 49ers over here.
Yeah.
All right.
GM for the day, a third of the GMs.
The GM is in the house right now, and hopefully you're making better picks than the 49ers have been in the past because it's been
I think it's impossible to make worse picks than the Niners.
Yeah. Curious though how this is all going to
turn out.
How
do they draft so bad, guys? How do they draft so bad?
It's pretty ugly. Been pretty ugly. As we say what's up to Under the Helmet. What up?
Hey, what's up? Starcast, how you doing, brother?
Take part in our mock draft, baby. We are doing it. We are going to get that started after we do, of course, our trivia, as we are now, starting every single week. That's what we're doing. We're doing great under the helmet. Glad you can join us. Be part of our mock draft, man. We're going 1 through 32, and we're going to explain what the rules are. But first, let's do some trivia real quick, guys. Because it's draft time, we're doing draft trivia, and I have 3 questions for you guys.
Oh,
3.
Oh, wow.
All draft related. So here we go. First question. What Oklahoma college quarterback was drafted in the first round by the St. Louis Rams in 2010? Think about it. Think about the team.
Jeez.
2010 St. Louis Rams first round draft pick. Doesn't mean the first pick. Just first round draft pick quarterback.
That's insane.
Oh, no, you can get it. Because when I tell you it, if you don't get it, you're going to be like, oh.
I'm not going to get it because I'm terrible at all trivia, even Niner trivia. Is it Sam Bradford?
Well, that's a guess.
Jason White?
Jason Light?
Jason White.
Oh, Jason White. So Jason White, Sam Bradford. Kenny, you're better in trivia than you thought. Sam Bradford is the correct answer, my friend.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Oh, bro.
Yes, it is. Good job, bro.
That'll never happen again. Never.
That was well done right there.
That's the only guy I knew.
Well, we got 2 more to go. Let's see how you do. Maybe you'll pull out a 3 for 3. Okay. Which Texas A&M quarterback was drafted by the Dolphins in 2012?
Oh, jeez.
Texas
A&M quarterback. That doesn't even sound right together. That's like an oxymoron.
They do such a bad job of developing players, from what I understand.
Jeez, I couldn't even.
Could be.
I wonder if anybody in the audience right now can get it for
2012.
Wow.
Yeah, 2012, drafted by the Dolphins.
Man, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I don't think I have even a name.
No? All right. Well, I'll throw a name at you, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, if I thought about it a little bit longer, I might have gotten it.
Kyle, what's his name?
Come on.
What's his name? Kyle, crap. I don't know.
When I say it, you're going to be like, yep, that was it. That's the name. Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he was in the league that long. That's right. On me. Yeah. I would have thought him, but I didn't think he was in the league that long.
2012. That's
wow.
All right. One more for you guys, and then we'll move on, and we shall do our mock draft. I can't wait. All right. Which Louisville quarterback was a first-round draft pick by the Minnesota Vikings in 2014? Louisville quarterback drafted by the Vikings in the first round in 2014. Hardest one, I will admit. This one's hard.
The only person I can think of, I'm sure, is just not right. Teddy Bridgewater?
It might be right. Let's see. What is Mr.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Teddy B as well.
Ding, 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 ding. Light it up, baby.
Yeah.
Light up the scoreboard. I love it.
The thing is
nice.
that there's not very many Louisville quarterbacks that you
that
think
just
of,
goes to show
later years. Yeah, it's like Teddy B or freaking Lamar Jackson.
Well,
and I was thinking, like, the things that you don't remember these things because you don't think about them, but like you hear them and your brain is like, shit, I know this. Shut up, idiot. And it just spits it out.
Just say what you think, man. You never know. It may be right. It may be right. Nice. And there you go. It worked out. Oh, we're going to hear a lot of this sound.
Well, I'm not going to lie. That was one of the greatest achievements of my life. Two out of those 3.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear the chimes?
Set the bar high.
No, what to do?
No, I got like some background.
Did you hear it?
Something like that.
I didn't hear it, but
man.
people hear it on the show. I just don't hear it.
I don't know if it's going to come out. Maybe not. I'll click it. We'll see if it actually does come out. But all right, so we're doing a mock draft. All right, and it's under the helmet saying my draft crush is Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Okay.
Notre Dame, baby. I drafted him in the 2nd round, got a B+, but I like him.
Okay. Well, we're doing first round, so let's see if he lands on anybody's right now. NFL mock first round. Here's how the point system is going to go when the actual draft does come out. Here it is. You get a bullseye. Obviously, we know what a bullseye is. You get the right player, the right team, the right spot. 10 points. If you get the correct player and team, but it's in a different spot, let's say it's not in the 3rd spot where they're supposed to draft, but the 4th, whatever, you will get 7 points. If a player is drafted in the correct spot, but on a different team, you'll get 5 points. If you draft the correct position, but a different player, you get 3 points. And the last one is if you draft a player 1 pick away from where you picked him, you'll get 1 point. That's how we're going to do it. Again, I'll repeat the rules, but let's keep track of who we're picking so we make sure that this is all fair and well and done and everything is all good to go.
Yeah, I got my stuff ready. I know who who people need and shit. I'll do the best I can.
All right. Well, let's rock and roll. Let's do it. I hate that you can't hear the chime sound.
I never hear like the music when you play it either, but I hear it when I go and listen to it on.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I always hear like as the show is playing, I always hear like some background house music type stuff going on in my ear.
Yeah, that should be playing. That should be playing. You got that right. That should be playing. Well, anyway, let's do this thing, man. All right, trivia is done for the day. First pick overall is the Tennessee Titans. They got the number 1 pick, and look, it's no secret they're taking Cam Ward, number 1 quarterback out of Miami. They addressed their offensive line needs with Dan Moore Jr., Kevin Zeitler, and J.C. Latham. So they're trying to already, build up a wall for Cam Ward to successfully start out his rookie season and hopefully turn around the Titans.
Yeah, cool thing real quick about last year is I thought Latham went before Alt, or did Alt go before Latham? Does anyone remember?
Alt was first.
Yeah, I think he was and so I thought the Chargers were going to take Latham instead of Alt, and they threw me for a loop and screwed up my entire draft last year.
There you go. So, all right. So, who do you got at number 1 then, Mr. Primetime?
I got Cam Ward as well.
Okay.
Clearly, he's my favorite quarterback in the draft. Watched a few Miami games this year. I really thought he was, early on, especially, he was, a big front runner for the Heisman. I almost think he's probably this quarterback class, which isn't very deep. I think he's got the best shot to be the most successful out of any of the quarterbacks in the draft.
Yeah, that's why he's Cam going.
Ward's my guy.
All right, so far we both agree. Is it a trifecta? Cam Ward number 1, Ken?
Yeah, it seems that way. God bless that kid. It's not going to be his fault if he doesn't do well there in Tennessee, but if they can grab a nice wide receiver too, then they'll have Ridley and that guy. Some decent running back there. They got an okay line, and I think they can make it happen.
I think that he could do well. We've seen, again, rookies come in just the past couple of years and turn the teams around to go to the playoffs.
And that division, not super scary. So
not at all. You got a good point right there. All right, what about the 2nd overall pick? Kenny, why don't you take this one?
Okay, 2nd pick, it's going to be, for me, Cleveland can't pass up on the best player in this draft, and so I have them taking Travis Hunter.
Okay. All right, and I actually agree with you. 2nd pick overall, I got them taking Travis Hunter forever, guys. And even up until 5 minutes before the show, I'm on Shedeur Sanders because I'm thinking, how can they pass up on a quarterback? And what did they tell Myles Garrett at the time to make him want to stay, other than the $40 million, of course? But
they told him who the quarterback was going to be, and he was happy.
That's what I think. So, because all the movement now in the media is going toward either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, I'm moving with it because they know more shit than I do. But I still think it should be Shedeur Sanders. However, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter like Kenny. So
I kind of agree with that. I still think that Cleveland is in play for Kirk Cousins. They'll probably make like a draft night trade or something like that. I think that might set them straight, set them up for the next couple of years. But actually, I have them taking Abdul Carter.
Okay.
Simply because I don't think, even with the addition of another quarterback, I still don't think that they're like that explosive type offense like when you look at Cincinnati or Baltimore in that division. That probably puts them slightly better than Pittsburgh. But I think if you can have those bookends with Abdul Carter working with Myles Garrett, I mean, now you have an identity, and that's kind of, that's kind of going to be like the theme of my draft is like, it's hard to pick, both sides of the ball and be successful simultaneously, especially when you're a team like Cleveland that's built from the ground up. So I think if you get Abdul Carter, you improve the back half of that defense in a little bit later on in the draft. But I think Abdul Carter is a guy that you almost have to take. Like you say, if they don't take Shedeur, I think it'll be Abdul Carter.
All right. Well, your Giants are up at number 3. Who do you want them to take? Who do you think they're going to take? What do you got?
I would want them to take. I was hoping Cam Ward might slip to number 3, but I don't see that happening. But there's some people haven't taken Travis Hunter. There's some people having Abdul Carter actually fall to number 3, and the Giants taking him. I could see that with Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns and Ozarike and those guys. But I actually have them right now taking Shedeur Sanders. Even though they've already got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, I don't think the Maras are in a position right now to get cute with the draft. I think if Shedeur Sanders is sitting right there at number 3, that's probably their dream scenario. I'm not a huge fan of Shedeur Sanders, as we were, discussing privately over the text, but I do think that he feels, maybe year after, maybe next year after next, depending on how long Russell Wilson plays and how successful he is. I think that the Giants would be silly to pass on Shedeur Sanders, whether I'm a big fan of his or not. I wasn't a big fan of Kayvon Thibodeau when they picked him, and he's now starting to find his footing as well. So I'll take Shedeur at number 3.
Okay, so even though they got Russell Wilson, and he's clearly going to be their day 1 starter, unless God forbid he gets hurt, Mr. Primetime over here, Kenny, is still going with Shedeur Sanders as their future quarterback. Do you agree with him, or are you going somewhere else?
I actually don't agree. I know David McNiner agrees, though. Maybe he'll like that pick. I don't really have a problem with Cleveland taking Abdul either. But what I saw was that Andrew Berry always goes for best player available. And so I'm thinking Travis Hunter. And so that means I think that the Giants, in my opinion, they were scary when they had a nice defense. And so if they grab themselves Abdul Carter, I think they can make their line a little bit scary. And I think that's helpful in that division. They, like you said, they got Wilson, they got Jameis, which for me, I don't mind rolling with those guys for at least 2 years. If you're lucky next year, you maybe get Arch Manning if you're lucky, and then you can start him in year 3. So I'm going to go Abdul Carter to the Giants. I remember growing up, they had a nice defense, and that's what I would like to see again.
And so far, Kenny, you and I agree on how the draft is going. I'm going Abdul Carter also, the way that it's shaking out. The Giants, Brian Burns, obviously, and Dexter Lawrence they got over there. So that's a formidable line. And that's something that's really important in the NFL. If you're able to get home with 4 guys and you can drop 7 back on a consistent basis, that's really important. And this Abdul Carter is apparently a not miss. So I'm going with him at the number 3 pick, which brings us to number 4. And this is where things get weird for me because it's the New England Patriots, and they can go O-line, they can go D-line. They've done a whole bunch of things already before we even got to this point. Stephon Diggs, Harold Landry, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane, Morgan Moses. They've done a lot. So you know what? If they're going to stay true to their word and go ahead and take the best pick out there, whoever the best player is left, I think it's Ashton Jeanty. I know I'm going out on a limb with this one, guys. I know I am. But I really believe that he fits. And I think that because Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are gone already, at least in my draft, that's the way it's going to go. Ashton Jeanty will be a New England Patriot. I think that Vrabel's going to come to light and say, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. We can run the ball, take pressure off of Drake May. Now we got Diggs. We can make it a 3-headed monster, you want to call it, whatever with that. They've addressed a lot of their needs already. I think it just makes sense for them. I really do. I don't know. Kenny, what do you got?
I love the pick because he's a top 3, top 5 player in this draft. Ashton Jeanty's in a class by himself compared to the other running backs in this class. But I like Ramondre and I like Gibson with a line. and it'll help. So I think they'll be okay. I know it's like I like it because, again, one of the best players in this draft. It's almost like a no-brainer, right? I'm gonna go in offensive line. I'm gonna go Armand Membo, tackle from Missouri.
All right. I mean, that's not a bad pick at all, and that's something that Vrabel will do. And it seems that under the helmet of Grizzly, you're saying they got Ramondre, but it could be a two-headed monster if they were to get Genty. But Armand Membo, he was he was a combine freak, the underwear Olympics. He was a freak out there. He did his thing. And, very athletic. So,
pretty deep RB class, too. I mean, I love RBs.
Sure. But there's Ashton Genty, and then there's everybody else. And
right.
People who are
which I love, which is why I love the pick. Yeah,
and I think too, as you look at this draft, I think the first round, at least, maybe the first 2 rounds, you're going to see a run on big people because you look at there's a lot of really good offensive linemen, there's a lot of really good defensive linemen. The linebacker class is probably one of the weakest that we've seen in an NFL draft in a long, long time.
Yep.
You have your top 2 or 3 corners, you got your top 2 or 3 safeties, but there are. I kind of like the tight end class as well. The running back class for me is a little bit. I'm not as optimistic as you guys are about how deep it is, but there's probably 3 or 4 guys in there that were probably worth the top. Maybe first, second, third round. I got 2 in my first round. But for my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with the best player left on the board as far as best player available, and that'd be Travis Hunter for the New England Patriots.
All right.
That would be fantastic.
Vrabel loves his defense. New England always had good corners, not great corners, but they had a good secondary when they were making their run back in the day. And I think Mike Vrabel will fall in love enough with Travis Hunter, and if he's sitting there at number 4, you almost have to take him if you're the Patriots.
I agree.
You get yourself a wide receiver, and you get yourself an incredible DB room.
And I still think he can be effective on special teams. I say that week after week, even with the new kickoff rule. I think Travis Hunter could be, a pretty effective punt returner, kick returner as well. So they're going to use him in whatever team gets him. They're going to use him in a number of ways.
Listen, especially while he's young in his first 4 years, you want to do that. Get everything that you possibly can out of him on his rookie deal, no doubt. So if he falls to the Patriots, I see no reason why they wouldn't take him. I totally agree, but not the way my draft is shaking out. Let's see how it goes at number 5. And you know what? I'll take this one, guys, because I have the first trade right now. This is a trade because the Jacksonville Jaguars, look, let me go over here to my little board for a second over here. Jaguars, I mean, they have themselves a decent amount of picks, but the team that I think is going to trade up with them is going to be the New Orleans Saints. And I think they're going to go ahead and take Shedeur Sanders. All right? Yep.
That could work.
I think that the Saints jump to 5. They give the Jaguars a couple of more picks, but the Jaguars only have to move back to number 9. Of course, look at maybe a second or third rounder or something a little bit extra. Maybe a first rounder next year. I don't know if that's going to be as much worth it to them. But yeah, I see the first trade here going down, and that would be with the Saints moving up from 9 to 5 and taking Shedeur Sanders, quarterback. So
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to that because right now, a lot of the mock drafts, the popular pick for Shedeur Sanders is actually number 9 to the Saints.
Yeah, you see, I don't think he'll last that long, though. I think
I don't either.
He would jump up quick. Maybe the Steelers, right?
Yeah, possibly. But our number 5 pick is, and I'm going probably with the consensus here right now, is Mason Graham. I think when you get a guy like that on the defensive line, especially with more teams starting to run the ball again, I think you need guys on that defensive line that are able to eat up some space. He's clearly the second best defensive lineman in the draft. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Michigan fan. And watch
go along with Josh Hines and Trayvon Walker.
I mean, I can't. That would almost be it. But I do see a scenario where they can trade back and get more picks just because they have so many holes to fill. But I do see Mason Graham could come in and immediately turn that into maybe a top 10, top 12 defense, which is, I think that would do a lot to help Trevor Lawrence as well, even if they don't, if they don't decide to address the offensive side of the ball in the first round.
Yeah, here's
because
the
I
thing
also see some mocks that had Ashton Genty going to the Jaguars as well.
That would be a little weird if they got Etienne and they also
That would be a three-headed monster.
Yeah, that'd be a little weird. But I hear what you're saying again with Mason Graham over here. Very rarely do you see a D tackle so coveted to go so high in the draft. And if that's the case, it makes sense, and it makes sense for me because at number 6, Kenny, we did your 5, right?
No,
I don't think, not if it was the Jags, but it's the same. It's Mason Graham, and for me, he's like the 4th, 5th best player in this draft.
Yeah, he's up there, no doubt, and that's why I have him going to the Raiders at number 6. A lot of people have Ashton Jeanty there, but in my mock, again, he doesn't make it. But if he does, yeah, I could see Pete Carroll doing that. It makes a ton of sense. I totally get it. But in my draft, Mason Graham falls to them, and him alongside of Max Crosby. Damn, that would be filthy to have. And for Mahomes and Justin Herbert to have to be running for their lives, Bo Nix, I think that'd be pretty filthy.
Well, and a highly motivated Max Crosby now that he's $35 million a year richer. So now he doesn't have to worry about contract. All that stuff is out of his mind, and he can just focus on playing football and wreaking havoc like he's been doing the last few years. So I like that pick.
Yeah, good deal. All right, well, who do you guys got, Kenny? Why don't you go ahead?
I have Jeanty because Pete Carroll loves his running backs, even though he doesn't use them on the goal line in the Super Bowl. I think that's the pick. They had like 4 running backs last year, and I'll be honest with you, whoever played wasn't really bad. And so I think sending Jeanty there would be incredible to open up that running game. I was going to go cornerback because I wanted to be safe, but you can't pass up on Jeanty. And if he's there right now on my board, I'm going to go Jeanty to the Raiders.
If he's there, I get it. They need offense. They need offense quick, man. And he provides instant offense. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you don't just run for 2,700 yards. I mean, come on. That's freaking insane.
And a lot of people are talking about him breaking Eric Dickerson's record. I don't see that happening, but the talk is enough to be like, damn, right?
It's still, yeah, man. Who do you got at 6?
I got Ashton Jeanty as well. I think the offensive line for the Raiders is probably a little bit underrated. I don't think the reason they were losing games and the reason they've been such a bad team the last couple of years has necessarily been because of their offensive line. I think it's just been because of inconsistent quarterback play and a defense that's really been hit and miss. Their special teams kind of, not that great as well. But Pete Carroll loves his running backs, as Kenny said. So if Ashton is there at number 6, if I'm Pete Carroll, I'm jumping all over that.
He's the second best player in this draft for a lot of people.
They've had very bad coordinators on offense, especially the Raiders.
But now they got the man. That offensive coordinator. He just came from winning a championship in the college, so he's ready to go.
All right, Kenny, while you're going, why don't you kick us off with the number 7 pick, the New York Jets? What do they do?
The New York Jets. Oh, boy. All right.
Exactly.
I'm going to go New York Jets, Will Campbell.
Okay, offensive lineman at LSU.
I think they're going to put him in the interior offensive line. I think they could really use it. Or he could play outside, too. I'm just saying they took Fashanu last year, right? You got Will Campbell and Fashanu on the outside. So you're starting to build something there. I really like it. And
you want to protect
Justin Fields? He might have a shot.
Sure. Okay. All right. I have no problem with that pick, Prime.
Yeah, I got the same thing. Offensive line, but I got Armand Membo going. I think I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Glenn is going to kind of build his team in the same vein that the Lions built theirs. Penei Sewell was that anchor, and that kind of got the ball rolling to kind of lead the Lions to what they are now. So I think Armand Membo, big guy, 6'5", 330 pounds, whether they move him to the interior or play him on the outside, I think he'll do a fantastic job. I think he might be the guy he's one of those offensive tackles that can be there, for 8-10 years and really protect the quarterback's blind side. But I think no matter where they put him on the offensive line, he's going to be good. But I was going back and forth between him and Will Campbell, and I think you're really splitting hairs. I think the deciding factor to me was the fact that Will Campbell had little arms.
Short arms is the conversation.
My God!
If you think about it,
that's absolutely insane. But
people in the NFL, they do have longer arms than a lot of these guys. So.
Just put on the tape, just like he said.
That's it.
Yeah, he's a pro. Like you said, he's going to be in the league for 8 to 15 years.
Well, I like you guys' picks. I like offensive line that the Jets go there. I'm no problem with it. But since Devontae Adams left, they need another weapon. And this kid out of Penn State, Tyler Warren, tight end, I think fits right in with what they're going to want to do. That scheme over there, using the tight end a lot, and actually using him in the blocking game, which is another thing that he can do. He's a big guy, so I like where he would fall in right with the Jets. Tyler Warren, tight end, going off the board at number 7 to the New York Jets, which brings us to Carolina. You guys have mentioned Armand Membo already. You want to protect Bryce Young. He can fit right in there at right tackle and play right away for the Carolina Panthers. I'll go Armand Membo at number 8, Kenny.
I mean, if he's there when they pick, it'd be crazy to pass up on him. For me, it's going to be Jalen Walker, edge/linebacker, Dick Award winner, possible generational player, even though he's a little undersized. I love this guy. I wish he'd fall to the Niners, but I don't think it's going to happen. So Jalen Walker to the Panthers for me.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I was kind of going back and forth between an offensive lineman and a weapon for Bryce Young. So I flipped a coin actually on this. I'm not going to lie. I actually picked Ted McMillan to go to the Carolina Panthers. I think Bryce Young, you have to be able to build on what he was able to do the second half of last season after the benching, after that whole issue. You have to get this young guy some weapons. What you don't want to do is he's kind of in the same situation as Caleb Williams is, I believe. And I think if you can build some, get him some offensive structure, get a couple of weapons around. I hate using the term weapons; it's so overused.
Yeah.
If you can get some game breakers around him, Ted's 6'4", 6'5", he 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. But we know he can catch because he had 84 receptions last year, and he never drops a ball. So I think, having a guy like that, go get your 50-50 balls, or, he's a big guy. I even saw him play some slot in Arizona. Imagine having a guy that big playing in the slot.
Yeah, contested catch guy. Going to go up there and get that ball for you, help Bryce out, and he could use the help.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I was torn between offensive line and wide receiver. So I got Ted going to the Panthers.
People need to not worry about 40 times so much, all right? Again, the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, Jerry Rice, tonight have a great 40 time. And again, I'm using one great, amazing example, but I'm just trying to make a point. All right. So now we get to number 9, and in my draft, guys, because I had the Saints trading up to number 5, I now have the Jaguars at number 9, and again, that's going to count in the way that we're doing our point system. That's the way it falls out. If I miss that, I screw myself over. So I'm really putting myself out on a limb over here. And you mentioned his name already, Kenny, Jalen Walker. I think that's why the Jaguars are fine moving back, because they know they can get a player of that caliber. Kid out of Georgia, defensive end. You already mentioned everything. That's a great pick for them to go along with Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. Freaking awesome. Can build a solid front 7. That's where I'm going with my number 9 pick. But it is the Saints on your guys' board. So, Mr. Primetime, what did the New Orleans Saints do?
I actually think that the New Orleans Saints go defense here, and I think they actually take Will Johnson out of Michigan.
Okay.
Clearly, again, I'm not showing any bias here, but to me, clearly, the second best defensive back in the draft behind Travis Hunter. I actually have him slightly ahead of Travis Hunter. But the thing that I think hinders him a little bit is that he missed a lot of games last year, so you miss out on a lot of tape, especially when he started playing some of the better teams as their schedule got a little more difficult. Especially, in the Ohio State game, you kind of missed him there just being there in that game. But I got the Saints going a little bit defense. He's big, 6'2". He's 194 pounds. They'll probably put a few more pounds on him. And I think when you get a guy like that, especially in the NFC South, where you're going against, the Kyle Pitts of the world, the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, there's some formidable guys. And I think one of the things that hurt the Saints last year was their horrific play on the back end of that defense. And I think Will Johnson can come in and kind of fill a void there.
Okay, cornerback a little high. Like you said, he missed some time last year with Michigan, but the year before that, he was solid. So that's what they're basing this stuff off of. If he comes back healthy, no problem. Kenny, who do you got at 9, the New Orleans Saints?
I love the cornerback pick because they really need it, and their safeties are this is for the Saints, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, number 9, we're on the Saints.
I love the safeties that they got over there in New Orleans. What's up, David? I love the Saints now that they got. I like their safeties. A cornerback would just make that DB room really nice, but I also know about the Sanders thing, And that's tempting. But Derek Carr, I don't believe is going anywhere. And the Saints fans, they like him. I don't know why, but they like him. So I don't think Derek Carr is going anywhere.
Well, they used to
I think
lose.
they can use this pick on Shedeur Sanders. I'm also going Will Johnson, who's one of the best players and top player in this draft. And so I like making that very hard to throw on the Saints.
All right. Interesting. So Will Johnson, both of you guys agree at number 9. We'll go.
He's got a little turf toe, which can't be ignored because that could be a huge problem.
Well, they play on the turf too.
But I also think last year too, though, I think a lot of especially the last 2 or 3 games last year that he missed, I think it was more him prepping for the draft as opposed to truly being injured. And that perception is out there. You know, was he really hurt that bad, or was he really, just kind of saving himself for the draft? But either way it goes, I think he's going to be an impact player for the Saints.
Yeah, all right, we'll see. Under the helmet, saying, yep, they already lost Lattimore and Paulson, Dave,
Yep.
Which is very true, absolutely correct. So nice drop in there under the helmet. I like that. All right, so that brings us to number 10, and that would be the Chicago Bears at number 10. What do? Well, they bring in Ben Johnson to be their head coach, so they're building a team that he can run by beefing up the offensive line. I wrote a couple of the names down that already. Jackson Dolman, we forget, and Joe Tooney they got a while ago, plus Jarrett that they got on the other side. I think that they're building a really good team, and Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator of that team is going to make a little bit of a leap here, I think, in this pick. But I think it's going to prove to be a really good one, and that's the tight end out of Michigan, Colston Loveland. I think another tight end goes really high over here, and I think that he puts him in that offense with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, and all of a sudden they got something really special over there. So I think that the offensive-minded man will take the tight end out of Michigan, guys. What do you think, Kenny?
Okay, so I like it because there's so many great ways to go, and I love this draft, and I like so many players. But for the Bears, I'm going to go ahead and give Caleb another option and give him Tyler Warren, Penn State, Chicago.
Well, we're on the same wavelength then. We both agree with the tight end, but I already have Warren going to the Jets.
And you're right to do that stuff because those players are fantastic and they should be gone.
So we're both thinking in the right way, the right direction over here. I like it. What about you, Prime?
Actually, I'm thinking right now, I think if the Bears pick a tight end, I think they're going to go probably pick one in the second round. I still think that Ben Johnson, again, in the vein of the way that they built the Detroit Lions, I think they're going to go offensive line. And I think this is where Will Campbell ends up going up in my draft. I have Will Campbell going number 10 to the Bears. You got Odunze, you got Moore, you may address the running back situation in the second or third round as well. You got Cole Kmet, who's I like him personally. So I think with the offense that you have right now, the key is going to be to give Caleb Williams as much time and protection as possible. Because remember, you're still trying to figure out what the Lions are going to do on the other side of that defensive line. So if they go out and get somebody or draft somebody special, they can end up, being a force. And I think the more, it's kind of like the philosophy of a defensive line. More offensive line than you can have, especially when the guys start getting injured later in the year. They're playing in the cold weather. I think Will Campbell would be the perfect fit there. He's young. He can, the guys that they signed are guys that have been in the league a little bit. I think he can come in. He can be that anchor on that blind side or the opposite side. And I think Will Campbell, would be a fixture on that Chicago offensive line for a long time to come.
Well, everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. There's no doubt. But what they did in the offseason was really address that offensive line so much. Now, I'm not saying getting another guy is a terrible thing, but I feel like they did that so they could address other areas. But what you're saying makes total sense. So, I mean, I can't disagree with your logic
I actually thought they overdid it. Every time I was hearing something, O-line, I'm like, all right, you addressed it.
You got to look, too, I think a lot of times you get caught up, we talked about this before, you get caught up in names. They go, Jonah Jackson. Okay, yeah, Jonah Jackson was good.
Lost his job.
Right. The guy lost his job. So, I'm not overly sold on I like a Tooney. I would be kind of 90 to 100% on. But, the other signings after that, I think the Bears were just they were going for more volume. But I think Will Campbell can come in and make an immediate impact on that O-line.
All right.
Well, they definitely have to replace one more lineman, so that's not a bad pick at all.
Let's see. They're coming in with a brand new line next year, no matter how you look at it. So there you go. Kenny, you didn't make your 10, right?
Not for the Bears. For the Bears, I am going to go. Oh no, I did. Tyler Warren.
Oh, Tyler Warren, right. We both like the tight ends, but I got Colston Love and going because Tyler Warren went. All right, that brings us to our 49ers. Kenny, I'll let you go last. We'll sandwich Prime in. I'll go first on this one. This is where I think Will Campbell is going. There's so many needs that the 49ers have, Kenny. We know it. I'm not going to go through all the guys that they lost this year. It's just painful to look at. It's painful to feel. I mean, and as we know, the guys we do have are getting older. And that includes like Christian McCaffrey. But our offensive line is in shambles right now. So if Will Campbell is available, despite his little arms at LSU, I'll take it. We need an offensive lineman. We need one bad. And that would be the guy right there, man. So, Kenny, we'll hear from you in a minute. But I'm good with the 49ers going offensive line or defensive line. But I'm going offensive line with who's off the board over here. Will Campbell, what do you got? Prime.
Well, Kenny, your dream came true, man, because Jalen Walker on my board falls to the 49ers.
Okay.
For 11.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
I watched him the last probably 4 games of last year, and that guy, he's not big. He's only 6'1", but he's a disruptor, man. He was all over the place. And every when you watch him, not necessarily at the all the measurables. But again, we all, the theme on our show is, can the guy play football? And Jalen Walker, man, he's a game wrecker. And I think right now, with the way that the 49ers are going, like you say, you guys lost so many players. I think if you can get a guy like Jalen Walker, if he falls to you guys at number 11, you almost have to take him, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, look, he's already off in my board. Otherwise, I probably would say, you know what, go grab this kid. Absolutely. He's that good. Where do I have him going? I have him going really high. Well, not really high. I have him going to the Jaguars at 9, but that's high enough. So there you go. All right, Kenny, what do you think that our 49ers are going to do?
I think the 49ers are going to go offensive line. And I know a lot of Niner fans don't like this pick. I've been sticking up for this guy all year, and I've had people literally doing shows just to argue with me, making their own shows to go out of the way to bash Kelvin Banks. Offensive tackle. If you know what, they don't like him. He can play inside next to Trent all year. Learn from Trent. Swing tackle here and there. Get a little muscle. Lose a little weight. Get his footwork down. And he can move to left tackle, or he can stay right where he is. We need people to protect Brock Purdy. We're going to spend a ton of money on him. Interior offensive line was a problem last year. We had a lot of pressure from there. So if he wants to be in the guard position, I have no problem with that. We can always use that too. I don't want to pass up on any offensive lineman this good, this early, when I know it's a deep-ass defensive line class. I see a lot of good people that I like on defense much later in this draft that I know Robert Saleh can work with. And so Kelvin Banks, 11th to the Niners, Texas. That's my dude.
All right, we both got offensive linemen going right there, and Kelvin Banks is being somewhat underrated. And his pass block win rate was off the charts. I think he let up 1.5 sacks in 2 years or something like that.
Real quick, Jason, which a lot of people don't dig this deep, but I did. I watched him freshman year. He went up against 4 first-rounders that year. He gave up how many sacks? Anybody want to guess?
0. Yeah.
And you know what? Jalen Walker, who was my dude, he's my number 1 guy in this draft. Jalen Walker called his ass out in that Texas game against Georgia, and he had 3 sacks, but he only gave up 1 to Jalen Walker, and that was on Quinn Ewers, and maybe 1.5 again on Quinn Ewers. You watch those sacks. Tell me those sacks aren't on Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, look, Jalen Walker is a monster. That's why he's going in all our top 10, no doubt about it. All right, let's keep it moving. The number 12 overall pick. How about you? It's in your division, Prime. Why don't you tell us what the Dallas Cowboys are going to do?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Kelvin Banks, because that's where I got Kelvin Banks is going to the Dallas Cowboys.
That's too smart of a pick. That would be too smart of a pick.
And you know what? You know what, Jay? And it's funny you say that, because that was exactly my mindset. But I'm like, okay, before Jerry leaves us in this life, he has to make one good decision. And I think, Kelvin Banks, 6'5", like Kenny said, he's probably got some footwork stuff. I'm not going to get all Mel Kiper and stuff on you, but
right.
I think, the 49ers need to kind of recycle that offensive line. They're a little long in the tooth. They lost a couple people over the last couple of years, but I think Kelvin Banks comes in. He instantly, gives Dak a little bit more protection, makes your running game better, whether you slide him out to offensive tackle on his own or, I wouldn't mind a 6'5" guard that's it's kind of a luxury. You know, guards we usually talk about 6'2", 6'3", but he's a big kid. He's a strong kid. You talked about his pass rush win rate. Say that 5 times fast. And he is but like I say, it may be too smart of a decision for Jerry Jones. But if I'm Dallas, I need to start thinking about start protecting my investment in Dak Prescott. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Calvin Banks stays at home and goes to the.
Yeah, Zach.
I like that. Stays at home. I like that.
Yeah, they got to fill in. Zach Martin. He's a guard or whatever, but they lost a lot of players. They lost to Marcus Lawrence. I mean, they lost some guys, man. So I don't know. What do they do, Kenny? The Cowboys.
I agree. They need to beef up the line. I just don't have anyone right now that I would put there. And so for me, here's where I go: Ted McMillan alongside CeeDee Lamb with Dak. Yeah. Make it happen. Compete in that division. I think they can do it with just Ted McMillan added to that team.
See, now, Kenny, I agree with everything you said up until that last part because I have Ted McMillan going also to the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow.
I do have him going to the Cowboys, and that's because it's a Dallas Cowboy thing to do. That's not going to help them get anywhere far, but it will make Dak.
It'll help them score.
It'll make Dak a good fantasy. It'll make Dak a good fantasy quarterback. That's what will happen. So Dak will be a good fantasy quarterback next year. And Dallas Cowboys, again, will do nothing. But they'll get this kid, Torrey McMillan, out of Arizona. That'll be the number 12 pick overall. Now, at number 13, the Dolphins, I'm going with the guy that you guys just mentioned. That's Kelvin Banks Jr. They need an offensive lineman terribly. Teron Armstead, don't know what the hell's going on over there. Not playing for the Miami Dolphins anymore. Unfortunate. So the kid out of Texas goes to the Miami Dolphins, Kelvin Banks Jr. What do you got, Prime?
I got actually I have them getting some help on the back end of that defense. I actually have Malachi Starks going to the Miami Dolphins
over Nick Emenwari. All right.
And I was torn, but at the end of the day, you're kind of splitting hairs between the two guys. I think Malachi Starks, Georgia product. Miami is, quietly, a lot of people don't really realize Miami's got a handful of holes that they need to fill too, and I think
got a ton of holes they have to fill.
Yeah. You're playing a division with Josh Allen, and who knows what the Patriots are going to end up doing. I think you shore up the back half of that defense. You kind of work from the safety end. Their defense isn't horrible, but I think like Malachi Starks, he can come in. I think he can come in right away, make an immediate impact, and help out that Miami defense.
Well, they lost Javon Holland, so there's a need there. There's no doubt. Will they address it in the first round? We'll see. All right, Kenny, what do you got?
This is a tough one. This is where I start to really have to think about it because there's a safety I like better. And no, it's not just because of the combine, but I agree. I think they will take Malachi Starks. I would take Nick Emenwari, but they're going to take Malachi Starks.
Okay, so you're picking Malachi Starks. That'll be your pick when we do our competition over here because that's what counts. That's who you're putting down.
Yeah, safety is a big need for them. Like you said, Holland's gone. And I wanted to go offensive line, but those guys that I really liked are all gone, and we can wait a little bit. I think they could wait. I saw Josh Simmons, but I just don't think they'll do that.
All right. So we got the Dolphins. We're up to number 14 now, and that would be the Indianapolis Colts. And I think that they get an absolute steal over here because Jalen Walker is getting all the love, right? And as he should be. Man, Mikael Williams, other defensive end from Georgia. That is going to be a steal. That guy can play big time, man. And the Colts, they need to do something about their defense and address the defensive line right away. Go do that. Get a guy who can go ahead and rush the passer. So I think that's what the Colts do. It may not be Mikael Williams because he may be taken already, but if he's there, I think that's who they go with, Kenny.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're probably right. Man, this is tough, huh? How about this? I'm going to go to Indy, James Pierce Jr., 6'5", 243 pounds.
All right.
Like you said, they need help on the defense. He's like one of my last really high-ranked guys, and I'm going to go with him, which I've never seen happen. I haven't seen it mocked. I have no idea that that's actually going to happen. I'm just going to go with it.
The mocks change every freaking day. Mel Kiper's on mock, 7.25 thousand.
I mean, are you counting from the 80s or just this year?
Who the hell cares already? I care more about what Primetime has got to say about number 14, the Indianapolis Colts.
Number 14, I think if Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones are going to be your quarterbacks, I think you either need to do one or two things. You either need to beef up the offensive line, or you need to give them some more weapons to kind of make them a little bit more explosive. So actually, I have Tyler Warren going to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
They need help everywhere when you really think about it. Tyler Warren, you know, we've sang his praises. Guy had 104 catches, big kid, 6'5". Actually can play, you know, he's played a little bit of running back at Penn State too, off and on here and there. So I think he opens up the middle of the field. I think he helps out Anthony Richardson. I think Daniel Jones might end up beating him out for that job.
So do I.
What's that?
So do I.
And that's sad. But I think if you know, at least start building something on the offensive side of the football, because when was the last time, other than Jonathan Taylor, what else do they really have on offense that you can kind of hang your hat on as the Indianapolis Colts? You know, you're playing on turf, so that'll increase his speed a little bit. He's a good blocker. He's a good route runner. And like I say, a lot of people have him as the best tight end prospect on the board. So if he's there at number 14, you know, they'll either take maybe an offensive lineman or maybe Tyler Warren.
All right. Yeah, the best quarterback play they've had in a while had been Gardner Minshew, and we saw Michael Pittman and make some catches, you know, when that was going on. So maybe they'll wake up.
Remember, they just had Charvarius Ward go over there. They still got Buckner over there. So there's a little action on the D there.
Yeah, they do. They do. Absolutely. All right. That brings us to the Falcons, who can use a little action on their D as well. What do you think for this one, Prime? What are the Atlanta Falcons going to do with the 15th overall?
Well, it's funny you say defense, because I actually had Shamar Stewart going to the Atlanta Falcons out of Texas A&M.
Okay.
And that's not just because we had Richmond Webb on our show. That pays a little homage to the big fella, but 6'5", 267. They'll probably beef him up just a tad. He's a very underrated prospect in this draft. I know it's kind of a reach to have him go that high when you got guys like Nick Scourton still out there. But I think, you know, the Atlanta Falcons were their defense was kind of onto something the last half of the season last year. And I think you put a guy like Shamar Stewart in that mix, I think he can come in and make an immediate impact. The question for Atlanta, I don't think is going to be their defense. It's going to be the play of Michael Penix Jr. Over the course of a full season. So if they can beef up that defense, you know, they say the quarterback's best friend is a good running game, but I also think a really good defense can help a young quarterback out as well. So I got them going for a defensive lineman, whether it's Shamar Stewart or James Pierce or Scourton, you know, who knows? But for now, I got Stewart there.
Yeah, all right. They pick up Leonard Floyd and Mike Hughes on defense. Shamar Stewart, he's got a lot of upside. That's what they're talking about with this kid out of Texas A&M, Kenny. Because he's only had, I think, a sack and a half over last year or whatever. So the numbers aren't big.
Knock on him, right? His production.
Right, but the talent is there, is what they're saying, and that's why he's being touted as a possible number 1 overall draft pick.
And no disrespect to Texas A&M, but from what I understand, from what I'm hearing a lot this year, the Texas A&M is not really incredible at developing their players. And so
we had Richmond Webb on to talk about it too. You know, he went to Texas A&M. Darwin's Raven is saying, I don't know, there have been so many people mocking Stewart to the Falcons. Excuse me. Not a fan of those mocks because how much they invested last year. Their 2, 3, and 4th were all defensive linemen or DNs. Okay, so there you go with that one. With the Falcons, look, I have them going with another DN, and his name is mentioned already, and I think that James Pierce Jr. does fall to them, the kid out of Tennessee. So I think they got to go defense because you got to deal with Baker Mayfield in that offense. So you got to need to get to them, and let's see what Bryce Young is going to become over there. And so again, the division may get tougher, and you know we don't know what the Saints are going to be yet. We got to see what they actually do at quarterback. According to me, they're going to get Shedeur Sanders in that trade over there. But the Atlanta Falcons, I like them taking James Pierce Jr. I think he's the talent that you don't want to pass up right there. I had a couple other guys in mind, but that's where I went overall with Prime.
Yeah, that's we're on the Cardinals now.
We're on the Falcons.
Atlanta.
So Kenny, did you make your Falcons pick yet?
I'll go real quick because I'm ready to go. I got Michael Williams going there, edge, which they need. It's going to be a very nice move for them. The problem is, I also heard that Atlanta's not really big on taking players from Georgia, and so I'm going to make an exception this time. I think that they do. Going out on a limb, because I mean that's like straight facts right there, from what I understand.
All right, what do you got, Prime? Who do you think Atlanta's going to take?
Well, I had them taking Stewart.
Oh, you haven't taken Stewart. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, no,
He
that's
was-
right.
yeah.
Okay, so now we are on the Arizona Cardinals, and I went back and forth on this one, man. I think there's a lot of guys out there that they need. The Cardinals are just really not in that great of shape right now. I mean, in their off season, did they do anything? I mean, yeah, they got Josh Sweat, so that's pretty good, and they did get a nose tackle, Dalvin Thompson. So what do? I think they need to go to the secondary right now and worry about that, and go with this kid out of Texas, Jedi Barron. So I think that cornerback out of Texas is going to go to the Arizona Cardinals. I think that'd be the right pick if he falls there. You want to try to have a shutdown corner, and he apparently has the ability to maybe do that at the next level. What do you think about that?
Let me get that right out of the way. I'm with you, Jahdae Barron, on that one. So
All
we
right.
can move on right to David.
All right. What do you got, Prime? We both like
I
Barron.
got it. I actually have them building on the defense too, but I got them taking Jahad Campbell out of Alabama.
Okay.
Ooh.
Probably the second best quote unquote linebacker, in the traditional sense, as far as first round prospects go. The Cardinals have needs, as you alluded to, Jason. They got needs kind of all over the place, but I think the theme of the Cardinals right now is they want to start building up that defense, and I think Jahad Campbell, he had 117 tackles last year. There's nothing to sneeze at, especially playing in the SEC. He had 5 sacks, a couple interceptions, couple fumble recoveries. So he's one of those ball hawking kind of linebackers that you really don't see as much as you used to. So I think, in the right scheme and the right system, he's 6'3", 250, so he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the athleticism. And I think you put him in the middle or, maybe on the edge or something like that of that Cardinals defense. And I think now they're onto something as far as continually building that defense. And they'll probably address, the offensive side of the ball later on in the draft.
Yeah, all right. Let's see what they do. Darren's Raven chiming in over here. Barron is one of the highest usage zone cornerbacks in the draft class. So, see if the man fits right in. Let's see. It might be a really good fit for the Arizona Cardinals over there. So that brings us to pick number 17. That'd be the Cincinnati Bengals. Kenny, why don't you kick us off?
All right. I've seen this mocked a bunch of times. I don't really think this kid is even a top 25 player, but I think that the Bengals may. And they really need the help on defense. I'm going to go Mike Green, University of Marshall.
Good pick.
For the
Good
Bengals.
Pick. Yeah, good pick. If you want to get bookends of Trey Hendrickson, I'm all about that. I have no problem. They're going to have to pay him at some point, obviously, so get that done. I think they need a commander on defense, and I'm not talking about the Washington Commanders. I'm just using that team. They need a general out there, and I think that kid out of South Carolina, that safety, Nick Emenwari, could be that guy. They're talking about him like he's real special, man. Again, South Carolina, you don't get a lot of great prospects out of, obviously, but I think that he can come in there and be an enforcer right away. He can cover. He can come down and play in the box. He can hit. So I like this kid, Nick Emenwari, out of South Carolina, to be the Cincinnati Bengals' new safety and maybe new team captain coming up in a couple of years.
Well, I like that pick too. I have actually for the Bengals, I have Mikael Williams actually falling to the Bengals at number 17.
Okay.
So again, either way it goes, it's the bookend thing with the, with Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati, they got to do something. Their defense cost them not getting into the playoffs last year. I think we can all agree with that. So, you get a guy like Williams, and maybe, the way that the, like I say, again, the way that they're starting to go fall back to the running back position, you're starting to see more explosive running backs. You're starting to see there's some really good quarterback play as well in that division. So I think the more beef you can give them, the more weapons, again, you can give them on that defensive line, I think the better off they'll be. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm drafting defense probably, the first 3-4 rounds just based on what I saw last year.
Yeah, we all agree they need a lot of defenses. No doubt about it. Bringing in a new defensive coordinator as well. Bye-bye, Lou Anarumo. See you later. Brings us to the Seattle Seahawks at 18. They can do a lot of different things, man. They do need help in the different areas, but I think the number one area after losing DK Metcalf is going after a wide receiver, and I think the best one on the board right now left over is Matthew Golden. Kenny, I know you love him, the kid out of Texas. He's not a big guy, but he's a fast guy. You pair him up with JSN. I think really big things can happen for the Seattle Seahawks over there with bringing in Sam Darnold. Obviously, you need weapons for him to be successful, as you do with any quarterback. So bring in Matthew Golden to the Seattle Seahawks at number 18. What do you got, Brian? Go ahead, Kenny. Go.
My bad.
No, go ahead, Kenny.
Okay, I also like a wide receiver. I just have a different wide receiver. I'm going Emeka Egbuka. Ohio State pumps out the wide receiver talent. I thought about sending him to Arizona. I just didn't think it was realistic. And I know that Emeka Egbuka is not really even near where this should happen, but I feel like it's a very good possibility. And Egbuka, I like it.
Yeah, right? How about that? Sell some freaking jerseys, man. I love it. That's a beautiful thing. What does Seattle do, Prime? What do you think?
Kenny, you and I are on the same page. That's exactly who I got them picking. I got them taking as well.
Interesting. We all got wide receivers.
Well, I almost thought about your boy, Jay Luther Burden. I know you really like Luther Burden.
I do.
And I almost thought about him. I was also looking at Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State as well. But I think just it'll sell some jerseys just because it's the Ohio State thing. But I think, Egbuka overall is probably a little bit underrated. I know he wasn't the greatest in the world. He still had over 1,000 yards last year, in that offense. So I think Seattle right now is in a position, you got to give Sam Darnold some more weapons, some more targets out there on the field. And he's one thing Egbuka is really, really good at is getting open and running routes.
And run blocking.
Look, we all agree.
That's a very underrated part of his game. So
we all agree wide receiver is the way that they should go.
They clocked him in at like 22 miles per hour last year.
That's crazy.
On a catch. Yeah.
So we all like wide receivers to go to the Seattle Seahawks. You guys like Egbuka. I like Golden to go. He can play slot. He can play outside. Either way, really good wide receiver. All right, let's see. So 19 is the Bucks, and I actually have my second trade here, guys. I see that the Chargers are seeing all these wide receivers starting to go and getting a little bit nervous. So I think the Chargers move up from 22 to 19 and trade with the Buccaneers, all right, and the Chargers go ahead and they take my guy out of Missouri, Luther Burden III.
Very nice.
I like that. There's a lot of people I think would be surprised if they traded. I could see Tampa fans or Charger fans kind of giving a little bit of pushback, if they trade, especially because Luther Burden's not a household name, but he's probably one of the most solid wide receivers in the draft. So I personally wouldn't see that as a reach.
Well, let me put this also. The Chargers have 10 picks in this draft, and the Bucks only have 6. So if the Bucks want to get some more draft picks and only move back a few spots, this would be the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have the Bucks taking Mike Green. For the reasons you guys stated earlier, or he had, 17 sacks. He led the nation. Even though he went to Marshall, a lot of people, Marshall's had a couple of prospects. I think a guy, named Randy Moss, I think a lot of people might be familiar with. Chad Pennington went to Marshall. There's some, I think 17 sacks, no matter what level you're playing or what competition you're playing, I still think 17 sacks for a guy is nothing to sneeze at. So and Tampa Bay, has been kind of known for their defense. A lot of their defense is getting long in the tooth. They're trying to go younger. So I think this will be a perfect start for them to go with a guy like Mike Green to kind of anchor that defense for the next few years.
All right, there you go. Tampa Bay taking a defensive end out of Marshall. Heard really good things about this kid. So I like the pick, Kenny. What are you going to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 19th pick?
Tampa Bay just re-signed Godwin. I know he's coming off an injury. They also have Evans. I know he's getting old. They also have Jalen McMillan. They have Kate. And so they got Bucky Irving and so I don't think they go offense. I think they're going. This is where I got Shamar Stewart going. I got him going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, all right. Again, a lot of talent over there. Huge upside they're talking about with the kid out of Texas A&M. I like it. Let's go to the Denver Broncos with the 20th overall pick. And this is where I think that we see the second running back go off the board. Omarion Hampton can fit right into that offense that Sean Payton likes to run. I'm not saying he is Alvin Kamara, but he's Alvin Kamara-like. He can catch the ball. He's big. He's fast. All right, the kid out of North Carolina. I think Omarion Hampton is a first-round pick, and I think a few teams would like to get him, but Denver is perfectly slotted to grab him because I don't think a team is really going to move up to draft him. So the Denver Broncos take Omarion Hampton and improve that offense even more. What do you got, Prime?
That's exactly who I got going.
Awesome.
I need help from my boy Bo. And I think a solid running game will do that. But yeah, for all the reasons you just stated, the guy had over almost 1,700 yards. He also had almost 400 yards receiving, so we know he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Right.
And I'm not a Denver Broncos fan, but you guys know I love Bo Nix, and I love Omarion Hampton. And I think that putting him back there with Bo Nix, again, we talk about a quarterback's best friend. And, he's probably, we talk about the gap between him and Ashton Genty. But I think it's all about the system with a guy like Hampton.
Sure.
So I think put him in that Sean Payton system. I think he'll thrive.
Doubt. All right, so we both agree there. Kenny, what do you think?
I agree with you guys on how great Omarion Hampton is. I think he's also in a category by himself, just not in the Genty category. And then there's his own category and then the other running back.
Yeah, drop ball.
I also need a wide receiver too, and that's where I like Matthew Golden going.
Okay. I like that pick. I like that. That's a good pick right there. If they take him, I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Sounds like a Bronco. Matthew Golden.
Under the helmet, he says he likes Stewart pick to Tampa Bay. They need some help in the D line. They got some young guys that can keep building in the trenches. Kalijah Kancey. No doubt. Okay. All right. I like it. Well done chiming in over there. Love to hear it. As we get to the 21st overall pick in the draft, that would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still waiting to hear from Aaron Rodgers. I'm playing it out as if they don't get Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't happen for any reason.
Say it.
Jackson Dart. Say
it.
They don't have to trade up for him. They don't have to do anything. He's going to fall right to him. And you know what? Even if they do end up landing Aaron Rodgers, it might not be a bad idea if they like the kid. If they like him enough, go ahead, draft your quarterback. Maybe you'll finally hit on one. Hopefully it's not a redo of a Kenny Pickett situation, Prime.
I agree 100%. That's why I got him going. It's funny how these guys, you watch him, he's like, you might not move up in the draft, but everybody fell in love with him at the combine. And Pittsburgh, if he's sitting there at 21 and Pittsburgh doesn't take him, and then they end up not signing Aaron Rodgers, Pittsburgh Steelers fans are going to go nuts. So you're almost in a position where you have to take him. I agree with you 100%. Jackson Dart's my guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And they don't have to move anywhere. I thought about them being the ones to trade up, but then the Saints made too much sense. I'm like, what, the Saints? And then Dion was on TV the other day. Colorado's got the same colors at the Saints, and he was alluding to the draft and saying, you know what, I like these colors. Talking about the Saints maybe drafting Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, maybe it happens at 9, but I still think they have to move up to number 5 to get him. But let's keep it going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny, we both like Jackson Dart. What do you like?
I do. What's up to Spongy in the chat real quick, Philly Special?
Hey, what up?
He loves Omarion Hampton to Denver as well. He just doesn't know I picked Matthew Golden, but you guys picked Omarion.
Yeah.
And so for the Steelers, I love the pick of quarterback. I just got a different quarterback. I feel like Tomlin is liking himself some Jalen Milroe right now.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay.
We'll see what happens. A little bit of a reach, I think, but
hey, if you love
Jalen Milroe, a first round pick, I haven't seen any mocks. I recall.
It's a little bit of a reach for me. I'm definitely going out on a limb there. I know they could use some interior defensive line right now, I think, but I'm going to go ahead and do that with Milroe because I don't think they have a quarterback. So,
well, they don't have. They got Mason Rudolph. That's it. So they have to address.
Who, by the way, Myles Garrett is not allowed to tackle. So that's the one good thing. There's a clause. He's not allowed to tackle him.
All right. As we get to our number 22 pick, we'll move it along because we're already at our hour point over here. This would be the Chargers pick at number 22. What do you got, Prime?
I got this. This is probably the most obvious pick in the draft without trades is Colston Loveland. To the San Diego or the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sorry, being another target for Justin Herbert and a Jim Harbaugh guy. If Colston Loveland's there, Jim Harbaugh is going to take him. and I'll close it out with that.
If he's there, I agree 100%. I don't have him making it there. Like I told you, I think he's going to the Bears very, very early. But if he's there, I agree. It would be a great pick for the Chargers. What do you got, Kenny?
I have the same exact pick, my friend.
Okay. Nice.
Colston Loveland, University of Michigan, reuniting with Harbaugh. I don't know if they ever played together, but Michigan guy. Let's go.
All right, no doubt. And in my draft, I had the Bucks and Chargers trading. I had the Chargers moving up to get Luther Burden III because the wide receivers started going. The Bucks at number 22 in my draft, they're going to take the linebacker, Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. I think it's a perfect fit. They need another linebacker in there to get a little bit younger. And, I think they need to go defense, and this kid can do it all. So I like that at 22. So let's go to our number 23, which would be the Green Bay Packers, guys. And, yeah, they can go a few different ways. Maybe offense, but maybe the wide receivers are gone. Maybe they don't like who's left. And maybe they go ahead and try to replace Jair Alexander with Will Johnson. Kenny, I know you had him going earlier, but I have him going a little bit later in my draft. Number 23, Green Bay Packers. Take the kid out of Michigan, cornerback Will Johnson, to help out that secondary with Jair Alexander gone, or likely gone.
Yeah, I don't hate that pick, but I have a guy who's a Green Bay fan and creator, and I saw him go DT first, and I see Walter Nolan sitting right there, who I really don't like at all, but everyone else really does, and so Walter Nolan.
Kid out of Ole Miss. Okay, hey, they can use the help there, Prime. I'm not mad at that at all. What do you got?
And that's really not a stretch either, because I think a lot of people have Walter Nolan like an early second-round pick.
Yeah, he's falling fast.
Yeah, but
that's
not
first round. I'm here. There's a few different mocks out there.
Late first, early second. Yeah.
So I have for the Green Bay Packers, I actually have Jahad
Campbell.
No, Barron.
No, Barron.
Jahad Barron. Okay, yeah, that's a good pick right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so and for the exact reason you said, to kind of replace Jair Alexander, and they're going to have Green Bay, all the secondaries in the NFC North are going to have their hands full this year with each other. So, the better, the quicker you can get better at your back half of your defense, your secondary, I think the better off you'll be. And if Barron's there, my concern with him is that he's kind of small, but the kid can play football, as we always say on this show. And if he's there, I don't see the Green Bay Packers passing him up.
There's an expression, guys, that it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight.
Right.
Yeah. Right, no doubt. Yeah, and under the helmet, making a good point. They have a really good D-line and young guys that got to step up. Kenny Clark is a veteran, obviously, and I mentioned a few other fellas over there. Yeah, Green Bay is in pretty good position right now to do a few things. Let's see what they do. You and I both like cornerback over there, Prime, so I just got Will Johnson going. We go to their division foe, the Minnesota Vikings, who draft 24th overall, and that's where I got Mike Green going. Kid out of Marshall, defensive end. Look, they got Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. I think that they just add on more. I think they just pile onto that defensive line because they have a really good team as you look at it all over the place. They have offensive help. They have defensive help. Why not throw in another defensive lineman over there to go get the quarterback? If Mike Green is available, I like it to Minnesota, Brian.
Yeah, I have your boy from South Carolina. That's where I got Nick Emmanwori going. Emmanwori going to the Vikings. I'm kind of, now that I'm looking at everything, we're kind of talking about this out loud. I'm not sure if he's going to fall that far, but if he does, I think that's a gift for Minnesota. Kind of like Aaron falls to the Packers. I mean, that's like Merry Christmas. Yeah. He's a guy that he's got very high first round grade. There's probably a couple other. Actually, there's really not any other safeties out there other than he and
not first round guys. Malachi Starks.
Yeah,
not first round guys.
So,
no.
That's how I got 6'3", big kid. 4 interceptions over the course of the season. He's a ball hawk, and I wouldn't necessarily. He might not be a lockdown corner, more probably of a zone type cornerback, but a good player is a good player, and I think if he's there, that's a gift for Minnesota. You got to take it.
Right, if he's available, that'd be amazing. It absolutely would be. I don't think he makes it that far, but that'd be incredible. Number 24, Kenny, the Minnesota Vikings select.
Okay, well, do the Vikings need a safety? Because I thought they need a cornerback, one too.
I mean, Harrison Smith is not getting any younger. Let's put it that
36 years old.
Yeah.
36 years old. So, and he's a cheaper replacement.
I'm going to go cornerback. Even though I wanted to go Malachi Starks here, I think they're going to go cornerback. I like Siobhan Revell Jr. He missed like half the year last year, but this dude is like he's my fourth cornerback, and everything else is pretty good on that team. I know they need interior offensive line, interior defensive line. I like Siobhan Revell. The upside is nice. He's a risky guy. I'm just going to go with that. I like him. I like him in Minnesota. And I think Flores will have a blast using that guy.
All right. There we go. All right, we're moving along. Number 25, the Houston Texans, a team that, they could go either direction this year, guys. It depends on what they do on offense. I mean, I don't know, losing Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, not sure what's going on with that situation as far as health-wise is concerned. But Nico Collins, another guy who gets hurt. Nico Collins, excuse me. But Houston Texans, what do they do? Put a guy next to Danielle Hunter, in my opinion. That'd be Walter Nolan. We talked about him. I think he does go in the first round, D tackle at Ole Miss. Yeah, you put him next to Danielle Hunter. I think he can do really good things in that defensive front. Also, with the kid they drafted 2 years ago with C.J. Stroud, and I'm forgetting his name now. Will Anderson. Will Anderson. Yeah. So go ahead and make that a formidable front right there, and make it hard for teams to run and pass. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or go ahead.
Prime.
Oh no, actually I have, and I'm now I'm thinking out loud here. He fell this far, but actually to kind of allude to your point, Jason, about the receiving core of the Texans, I got Matthew Golden going to the Houston Texans.
Okay.
For the obvious reasons, their receiving core decimated by injuries. You lose Diggs, Dell's not healthy, Collins can't stay healthy. If you want to keep this thing going that you have with the Texans, you got to start worrying about stuff like that. And I think that Matthew Golden can come right in, be a favorite target of C.J. Stroud, and kind of keep that momentum going that they have as they try to build, trying to get deeper into the playoffs and potentially, to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the key to them moving forward is definitely getting better on offense. And, certainly you got to improve on defense, there's no doubt. But again, Christian Kirk and Nico Collins, is that enough? And, their tight end, the kid who came from Dallas over there, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name right now? Oh, my God, that's really annoying right now. Their tight end.
I know. He's not even a hard tight end, but I can't think of him either.
Whatever. I'm going to pass on it. I don't want to spend too much time.
We all know him because we just played fantasy, but it's been like
Dalton Schultz. Thank you.
Yeah, there
Thank you, Darwin.
Yeah, either Darwin or Spongy would have said something.
What are we going to do with Houston Texans, Kenny? Who do you got?
I mean, their offensive line is atrocious and was a disaster last year. This is where I go. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle. He's got the patella tendon injury, which is scary as hell. But I think he's a young man. He's got those rubbery bones still. And it's just a beautiful pick right there for them. I think they would like that.
He said a beautiful pick.
It's beautiful, baby.
It's a good pick. It's a good
beautiful
pick.
And clean. Beautiful and clean.
It is a good pick. I like it. All right, next up we have the Los Angeles Rams, who could be one of those really sneaky teams this year, guys. I mean, they're
telling you, man.
They were close. They were right up there with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, and they picked up Devontae Adams this year. What do they do in the draft? I think they're smart enough to realize they got to pump up the secondary a bit, and this is where a kid out of Kentucky comes in, Maxwell Hairston, their cornerback. I think that he's going to go in the first round, and I think he's good enough too. And I think the Rams can really use him in that spot right there. Look, every team needs good cornerbacks, and if this guy is what they think that he is, if he's good enough, bam, take him right there. What do you got, Prime?
I actually have Kenny's guy that he just mentioned. I actually have Josh Simmons going to the Rams. I think
protect Stafford's old ass. There you go.
And I think that the Rams are very, very serious about maybe this year for sure, maybe next year. But the Rams have proven that they're going for the gusto. And I think if you can get a guy that can help anchor that offensive line and give Matthew Stafford some protection, we all know that Matthew Stafford's not the most mobile guy in the world. But if you give him some offensive line help, now you've improved that running game. You've improved Stafford's timing. the time that he has in the pocket to make his decisions. Josh Simmons, big kid, and he's an Ohio State offensive lineman. They usually fare pretty well, 6'5", 317. Strong kid, athletic, and I think he's just the type of guy that Sean McVay would like on that offense. If they don't pick, like you say, a safety, I think they go offensive line. I think Josh Simmons is their guy.
That would not be a bad way to go, Kenny. I got them going quarterback. He's got them going offensive line. I have no problem with that right there. What do you think the Rams do?
I think the Rams are feeling themselves after last year. After last year and those picks that they nailed that draft so damn good, it made me cry a little bit. And the only reason this is the guy I'm going to give them, even though I don't want them to have him, and it's kind of a risky pick because of his shoulder injury, Jahad Campbell. I don't care if they need a linebacker. Jahad Campbell to the Rams. At this point, if he falls to them like he has for me, I think they take him.
All right.
I know they need a cornerback. I know they need some offensive line help a little bit, but if Jahad Campbell is there, I think it's a big time, could be a huge player for them on that defense.
Yeah, he's off my board at that time at number
me too.
At 27 now. We're at the Baltimore Ravens, who, man, they have a stacked team. We know they do. It's just a few areas they got to shore up. And look, if you want to make the running game your central focal point of your offense, you're going to need to get offensive linemen. And I still have Josh Simmons available to me in my mock draft. I say that he goes, the kid out of Ohio State, the offensive tackle. You can put him in at right tackle, have Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. Bada bing, bada boom. You got your bookends right there. I think that's what the Baltimore Ravens do. What do you think, Brian?
Actually, I'm actually going to. This is a trademark, such a John Harbaugh move. I think you're going to go defense here, and I got Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, who played alongside of Mason Graham. I got him going to the Baltimore Ravens because he's a Ravens guy. He would fit right in. Come in, make an immediate impact on that defense as far as stopping the running game, which, again, more teams are starting to we're starting to see the resurgence of the running back position. I keep saying it, but it's the truth. And hey, Darwin, I appreciate that. But yeah, I like Kenneth Grant going to the Ravens. Yeah.
All right, big boy.
340 pounds running 70 yards downfield. That was a play for the ages.
That'll do it for you, right? No doubt. Kenny, what do you got with the Ravens? A team that's right there.
Here's what's great about the Ravens. I have Levi, Ravens guy. I also have another Ravens guy, and they don't always agree, even though they don't know each other. And the other Ravens guy, I'm with him on this. I'm gonna go the best guard in this draft, Tyler Booker, Alabama.
Okay.
6'5", 325 pounds.
We agree. Go offensive line. I think that's the way to go. Again, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, you want to protect them and you want to have them with the ability to run. So going offensive line just makes sense for the Baltimore Ravens, in my mind, no doubt about it. Now we get to 28. That would be the Detroit Lions, or the Detroit Lions, however you want to pronounce that. And that's a team that I think they need to look at defensive line and offensive line, but they need to look at secondary as well, in my opinion. The Lions, and Prime, we're going to get to you in a minute because this is your other team, and you know them a little bit more than Kenny and I do. But I think they go with that kid, Donovan Ezuraku, and I can't pronounce his name, sorry, but the kid out of Boston College, the defensive end. You want to put him on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, get some bookends over there. So I think they go with Donovan out of Boston College. I think that's the move. Prime will save you for last. It's your team. Kenny, what do you think of the Lions at 28?
Okay, the Detroit Lions. What do we got here? I got. Oh boy!
I thought you had it ready already.
The end of the draft, I thought I'd be ready by now.
We only had a week to prepare. That's all.
Yeah. I've done so many of these. I thought I'd be ready. I'm gonna go Kenneth Grant.
Okay.
Defensive tackle, Michigan, freak list. Dude is beast. I love Mason Graham, but Kenneth Grant had a lot to do with why Mason Graham was so good, in my opinion. And so Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Actually, I was torn between Ezuraku and James Pierce because James Pierce is still on my board. I think I'm going to go with James Pierce on this one.
Okay, that makes
like
sense.
to bookend with Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions' defensive line was the absolute one of the worst in the league once Aiden Hutchinson got injured. I think they only had a total of about 36, 37 sacks last year. Aiden Hutchinson, despite being injured, still led them in sacks last year, and that's an indictment on the play of the rest of that defensive line. So I got James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee going to the Detroit Lions.
Real quick, sorry, Jason. I thought we were doing Philly. That's where I'm going to send Grant.
Philly?
I want
We're like 4 picks away from Philly, bro.
Nick Scourton is who I want.
Okay.
For the Lions?
An edge for Detroit, Nick Scourton. Yeah.
Okay, you got him.
Sorry about that.
He's in there. All right, well, let's move on to the Commanders then. We all got our Lions picking. Let's do the Commanders right now. I had this guy falling, and again, I did have a run on wide receivers, but I feel like this guy falls a little bit for some reason. The kid out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka, for some reason, I think he falls, and I think it's a good fall that Washington's going to say, wow, can't believe this kid actually fell to us. Got to pick him up. So if he's available, and that's questionable if he's available or not, I understand that, but if he's there, I think they take him. I really think they take probably the best wide receiver available if it is a first-round type of guy. Otherwise, they may want to look at the defensive line. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you think, Prime?
Actually, I got them taking Donovan Ozereku out of Boston College to beef up that defense. I think Washington, surprisingly, if they can get another receiver, they really don't have a lot of holes that they need to fill. They're probably a more complete team than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for. So they can do some beef up that defensive line, man, and they're already a scary team with what they can do on offense. But I haven't watched a lot of Boston College football, but the one game that I did, and then kind of watching some highlights and stuff like that, this guy seems like he might be the real deal. Again, he'd have 16, 17 sacks. Good motor, as they like to say. He's very bendy, almost Gumby-like.
Gumby.
That reference. And
Gumby, damn it.
I think Washington goes defensive line just to kind of, if nothing else, to keep the momentum going from last year.
So you like Donovan Ozereku out of Boston College, right? So that's your guy for Washington. I'm going with Buka, and Kenny's going with?
Well, I wanted to go wide receiver, but after watching what Philly did to the Washington Commanders last year, I have to go defense, and I agree with Prime. Devin, is it Ezeraku? Donovan Ezeraku, Boston College. Yep, edge.
Okay. All right, done deal. All right, I got him going one pick before to the Detroit Lions. That'd be the Prime's Detroit Lions. Here are the Buffalo Bills now. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. All right, the kid out of Oregon. I think that the Buffalo Bills need to address their defense first more than anything because they got Josh Allen, and that's instant offense right there. You know what they're going to do with him and James Cook and whoever else they bring in. I mean, the 2 tight end system that they got over there with Dalton Kincaid. I love everything they're doing right now, but the Bills, I think, go defense, and they go Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. I think you get a big guy there in the middle right there, a disruptor. Prime, I think that's the way you go. Derek Harmon, Buffalo Bills.
That's my pick. I love Oregon as my third team behind Michigan and Texas. I love me. I've liked Oregon since forever. I love Oregon. I pay a lot of attention to them, and Derek Harmon, man, would be a perfect fit on that Buffalo defense. That we're still kind of unsure how they're going to fare from a wide receiver standpoint. I still think there's some things that they need to address there, but they'll probably address that in the later rounds. But Derek Harmon out of Oregon, defensive lineman, can play tackle or edge, and I think that's one of the things that they'll like the most is his versatility. So, give me Derek Harmon out of Oregon for the Buffalo Bills.
No doubt. All right, we agree on that one. All right, Kenny, what say you?
3 for 3.
Woo! Look at that!
Wow.
Clean sweep.
He has to go there now. He must go there.
Right. He's got it.
That would be great.
That's crazy. I love it. All right, we got 2 left, and that would be the Super Bowl matchup. It would be a rematch of what it was from a couple of years ago. Kansas City at number 31. What did they do? They got to address the offensive line, and Greg Zabel is an interior offensive lineman, and they lost Joe Thuney. So it just makes freaking sense that Greg Zabel out of North Dakota State, steps right in and starts for Kansas City day one, Kenny.
2 for 2. Gray Zabel. Listen, Gray Zabel has little arms or whatever, or a little span, whatever the hell it is. I watched that guy. I watched all his games last year, highlights, of course, here and there, not every single game, every minute.
Right.
But the Senior Bowl weekend or whatever, where he went up against everybody, my dude put up a fight, and he was just not giving up, and I loved that shit. And it was fantastic, and they need that help. So Kansas City taking Gray Zabel for sure.
Perfect. Yep. There. Me and Kenny agree. Is there any way that Prime actually agrees when we go 6 for 6?
I don't know about this one.
Yeah, that's too much.
No, because I'm thinking they need wide receiver help. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they go Jaden Higgins. I know it might be a reach.
Okay.
A lot of people have him as a second round prospect, but Jaden Higgins, 6'4". It'll be a target that Patrick Mahomes hasn't had. He hasn't really had big targets when you really, outside of Travis Kelce, but on the outside there, big 6'4", 6'5" kind of guy. 87 catches, almost 1,200 yards last year. And I think if you really want to help Patrick Mahomes out, I think their defense may be, lacking as well. But I think they need to address that wide receiver position quickly. And I think Jaden Higgins might be a sleeper in this draft.
I'll tell you real quick why, honestly, I just don't like them going for a wide receiver so early. I think they could do it later and maybe get the same caliber type of guy. Is because they're getting Rashee Rice back, and they got Hollywood Brown.
Brown.
They got what's the other kid?
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy. So I feel like especially a team like Kansas City, who's got Patrick freaking Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, they don't need to overstock at wide receivers so much. I think you need to protect him more than anything. And if again, maybe go defense. I don't know, but maybe that's why Kenny and I like Gray Zabel so much, is because again, Joe Thuney is gone, and you need to protect your freaking quarterback.
And he's versatile. He can play inside. He can play.
I like them too, because I actually almost had Gray Zabel going to the Lions. I thought about that too. So I kind of went back and forth between, but I'm like, their offensive line for now is in better shape than their defensive line. That's why I kind of went with Pierce. But yeah, Greg Zabel was actually at a first round grade for me.
Chad is very funny right now. I love what you guys are saying. And then McNair, I love it. That's great. Oh man. Well, that brings us to our last team, and that would be the Super Bowl freaking champion Philadelphia Eagles. Spongy is happy about that, I'm sure, no doubt about it. Kenny, why don't you lead us off? What do the Philadelphia Eagles do at number 32?
All right, Philly Eagles. For some reason, there they are. Interior defensive line, Kenneth Grant, University of Michigan. Another guy on the freak list. Let's go.
Kenneth
Falls
Grant.
To the Eagles. Who hates that?
No, that's great for them after losing,
Yeah.
who they lose this year. They only got Jalen Carter left. They lost Milton Williams. They lost, and I'm trying to think of the other guy in the top of my head right now. I don't know why it's not coming to me. Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
They lost some guys. They lost their OC. They got
making some replacements over there would be a good idea. Not a bad thinking. What about you, Prime? What do you think?
I don't know. With Philly, Philly was probably the hardest pick for me, because I was thinking, you look and it's like, what do they really need? But Philly's known for kind of keeping that defense going. So just for craps and giggles, I'll throw Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Probably that may be a reach, but I think he's one of the top 4 or 5 interior defensive linemen in the draft. Once you get past Grant and Graham and Harmon and Nolan, I think he would be the next guy up.
I agree.
Given Philly's tradition for especially run-stopping defensive guys, and he's very versatile. He can play across the entire line. He actually can do some stand-up as well. So I think it may be a reach, because I know he's got a second-round grade on a lot of people's boards. And again, by this draft being so deep with big people, a lot of these defensive players outside of the top 2 or 3 that we're picking, the top 2 or 3 that have first-round grades at each position, a lot of it is kind of, you throw in a dart, so to speak, because they have a lot of similar abilities, and it's just going to come down to who these guys have on their big board when it's all said and done.
Yeah, sometimes it's about systems, who make a player, who you playing next to. There's a lot of things that go into it. There's no doubt about it. And Philly drafting in that spot, they really can use the defensive lineman. I totally agree. But what I think is going to happen, let me end this draft in the right way, guys, with a trade. The Cleveland Browns did not get their guy. They didn't want Shedeur Sanders at number 2. In my mock draft, I got them picking Travis Hunter. Now who's going to throw the ball to him? Jalen Milroe. They climb back into the draft, into the first round at the 32nd overall pick. They got 10 picks. Let me check this again. I think Cleveland's got, 10 picks? Yeah.
They have a lot. Picks. I think they have 2 in the second round, don't they?
Yeah, and they can give the Eagles both of them if they wanted to move up and get their quarterback,
That would be
Jalen
horrible,
Milroe.
but yeah, that would suck if the Eagles got any more top 100 picks next season.
Yeah, they got plenty of picks themselves. They got 8 as it is, but you know what? They're going to get more if what I say comes to fruition. Jalen Milroe, quarterback out of Alabama, goes to the Cleveland Browns with the last pick in the first
That's
round.
definitely
Kind of like
bold.
a Lamar Jackson thing.
That's bold, baby.
Yeah.
That's brisk. That's brisk, baby.
That's brisk, baby.
We need that soundbite from Sinatra.
Right. I love that commercial.
Oh, man, that's, hey, I can't feel
Oh,
nothing. I
yeah,
just need something to
Rocky
drink.
That's
did it
brisk,
too.
baby.
I love it, man. Well, I'm surprised that we actually agreed on so many picks. There was a lot that we actually agreed on. That's not going to happen in a mock draft very often. That's great.
But no, and even if we didn't agree on the person so much, we
The
agreed
position.
on the position. So
Yeah.
so the scoring is going to be very interesting. I just want to take a quick second to say too, this is my first live mock draft that I've done like on any podcast or any show like that, and I had the two of you guys to thank for this. Bringing me on board. Like I say, it sounds corny, but it's a humbling experience for me. I've really enjoyed. I look forward to Thursday nights now like I've never looked forward since the days of must-see TV when Friends, VR, and all that crap came out. And I got you two guys to thank for that. I got people in the chat, people following us on Twitter, people kind of engaging with us. But you two guys made this happen for me, man. And it's cool to be able to come on, express your opinions. Like I say, it's my first live mock draft that I've ever done. So I'll probably end up getting my ass kicked, but it's all good.
We'll see.
There's always fantasy football. And
Well, believe me, the love is reciprocated, bro. The love is reciprocated, man.
I just appreciate you guys, man.
Same here, and we can tell you love it, man. And it comes out when you talk about the players. So excellent.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The true love does come out. And I can say, man, since you joined the show, you've made it better. There's no doubt about it. The show is
I
better.
appreciate that.
Jason and I are very boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Well, it actually just this will be my first when we do fantasy. This will be my first time doing fantasy football in like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
I did it.
Get ready for that.
I had
That
to
was
give
me.
it up.
That was me last year, Prime. That was me last
I
year.
had to
Jason
give it
brought
up.
me back.
So I'm looking forward to that too. So you guys are you guys bring out the best in me, man. I appreciate it.
Well, we all appreciate you. It's much appreciated all around, man. It's freaking great. We love doing this stuff. We do it for fun. We do it for free, and we do it because we're we. I mean, that's what's up, man. We just had a great time. An hour and a half, $1.50 down, round one. We did it. It felt like 10 minutes, man, because it was so much fun. Let's see who wins as we do our draft. We have our competition. You get the bullseye, you play her in a different spot, whatever. We went through the whole thing. We got to keep draft. We got to keep tasking what we got. We got to keep tabs on it. We will be here live for the draft, obviously, but next week we're going to be joined by about, 3 or 4 more heads, guys? I don't know. All right? We're going to have a few more people in here, and we're going to do a full first-round mock draft. We're not going to have everybody picking one. We're going to go in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and kind of like snake style and keep it going all the way through round one. So you want to be here for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Jump in on that one. There'll be a lot of debate, a lot of conversation. Maybe we'll do some trades. Who knows? It'll be a freaking great time. All right.
Hey, Jason and Prime, real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Spongy wanted to know the 2 guys you took for the Eagles.
Well, I traded out. I got Cleveland going in, but I'll tell you what. If
Jason
they
got you
keep that
2 more
pick,
picks.
if the Eagles keep that pick, I have them taking Shamar Stewart.
Okay, yeah, a guy that fell because
line again, yeah.
production, but will produce on a team like the Eagles.
No doubt. So that's who I would take right there, if so. But no, I actually think that Cleveland is going to trade back in, and they love this Jalen Milroe kid right now. I don't know. We'll see. I could be wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of things, but I do have this prophet moniker thing going on over here, so I got to live up to it somehow. Anyway, boys, great freaking time. I know it's late. We got to walk dogs. We got to get to bed. We got to get our last little bit of food. And Kenny, I know it's still only 3 o'clock where you are, so you're good to go. But me and Prime, we need to get to bed. We got to do this thing. I got a long day tomorrow. I got an in-service day. Don't even ask me what that's about. But hey, we'll be back same time, same channel next week, baby. Power 32 podcast. We love you guys. Peace. Thank you very much. We're out of here.